We're going to get started right on time. Tonight is an exciting night. Y'all have lots of good work ahead, lots of listening, and so we're thrilled to have you all here. Thank you to everybody who was able to make it to the tour. We appreciate you giving up part of your weekend. It was good to see you. Val or Sal, whichever you choose, for giving up a Saturday and being there as a high school kid. We appreciate that a whole lot. So nice to see everybody again, and we're excited to have you here today. I think this is going to be a really great night with lots of good information, and will help us keep rolling as a committee. I'm going to hand it over to Lizzie and let her get us started.
Okay, thank you. All right, so tonight's a lot of information and a lot of dollar signs, okay? And I know that's going to be a little overwhelming, but Elaine and James are going to walk us through all of those items. Just a reminder, this is your charge from the board, and I think we're kind of at number 3 now. We've ticked down the list a little bit, but we're thinking about the needs of all the district students, staff, parents, and taxpayers, okay? So tonight, we're going to see the full list of the projects with, like I said, all of the money attached. You're going to take home a worksheet tonight, and that's going to be the first time you're going to put a bond package together. And we're going to talk about that worksheet when we get later down the road in the meeting. But just know you're going to get a full list of all of these things before you leave tonight on a big worksheet with the numbers attached to it, okay? Here's my stuff. I love it when y'all text me, hey Lizzie. And so I talked to some of y'all this week. That was good, nice to interact. So tonight's just one big presentation, just one. And we have chopped it up for you because we don't want to make you sit through 40 slides and not have time to discuss. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here in just a minute, and then you'll get your worksheet as well. Y'all know this stuff. You need a break, take a break. Everything you need is here in front of you. And we're really going to start digging into talking about these things with our tables and having those really open conversations. And so I always get to this slide because y'all, this has gone by fast. And this is meeting 4. We have 2 more meetings after this. And so we are coming, I always kind of use the baseball analogy. We're in between kind of second and third base. We're stealing third, you might say, okay? And so we've got some good work to do tonight, and then continue to build on that work for meeting 5 and meeting 6. Now, one thing about the agendas, tonight you're going to get that worksheet, but you don't know your bonding capacity yet. You don't know your budget. That's not given until meeting 5. The reason is we want you to have the latest and greatest number. So when you go home and start building this bond before the next meeting, I don't want you to necessarily think about a budget. I want you to think about the needs. Like, what are the greatest needs that you've seen so far in this committee? When you come back to meeting 5, you will get your budget. You will get that capacity, and then you're going to build a bond at the table. Still not the last time. We have a whole nother meeting to finalize it. So I just don't want you getting a calculator out and going backwards from a number. I want you to think about the need first, okay? You're going to get here tonight, especially when you start doing your table talks and you start seeing these projects. We're going to start having a little bit of this gradients of agreement, where maybe we don't necessarily 100% agree with our table friends, but we let them talk and we hear their opinions and we keep going and we keep hearing more of the content. And you'll get here really next time. Next time is when we start funneling into that decision point, especially after you bring back your own bond package and you start sharing it with your friends at your tables. Okay, so let's talk about it. Tonight you're going to see these icons. There's 6 of them. Notice they start with new campuses, facility improvements, we have athletics, transportation, technology, and other. So what Elaine and James have done, this is amazing, they have divided this presentation into different categories for you. And I think that's smart, because this type of fast growth district, you always have to think about new build, but you can't forget about the buildings that are existing. So they divided this presentation up. Now, we're not going to have 6 table talks, We're gonna have 4. So what we've done is we've combined some of them, and you'll see some slides of one, and then it'll roll right into the next icon, and then we'll stop and have table talk and Q&A. So I just wanted to put that out there, so when we keep going after one, you don't go, wait a minute, Lizzie. So 4 times we'll stop, discuss, and have our Q&A time, okay? All right, well, I'm gonna turn it over.
Thank you, Lizzie. Good evening, everybody. If it feels like it's an hour later, it is because it feels like it's an hour later. So thank you for being here in the dark after a time change. So I want to be clear about what you're going to see tonight. When we put this together, I asked everyone across the district, what is your 5-year lookout? So we've put together not only the things for the next 1 or 2 years, but the next 5 years, with the idea of making sure that you have a comprehensive look at everything that's been identified. So what you're going to see is new campuses that have been identified by the Long Range Facility Planning Committee that met last spring, opening through the year 2030. Facility projects for the next several years. This one's a little bit trickier. We know if we have an HVAC unit that's 20 years old, we don't know in 5 years what's going to fail. And so we've identified things that we're aware are on a replacement schedule and need to be considered. Then when we look at technology and vehicles and buses, we do have a replacement cycle. So those departments do keep up with their vehicles, their buses, how many miles, what's the age, what's the maintenance look like on those. And so those replacement schedules have been put together going out to the year 2030. Same thing on technology. We know what our needs are for the next 5 years. I want to pause here. So when the bond in 22 failed, the board came back together and said, okay, we know we need to open some schools. How can we put together a package that the community will support? And through that process, we took a lot of items that were in the November bond out, and the board said we will fund those through operations, through fund balance, which is basically our net assets, our savings account, what we've accumulated as a district over the years from operations. If you've been to Taxpayer Tuesday, or you've heard anything about school finance, school districts all across the state are having struggles right now with their operating budgets. So when we pulled these things out of a bond and put them on operations, that's causing a further strain. So when I say up here, several of these items have been funded through fund balance, that's what's happening. And so Gina is leading a budget collaboration committee studying how can we fix the operations budget through additional revenues or expenditure cuts. And I think anyone that's serving on that committee will tell you this is not an easy task. And so when we're trying to balance the entire district looking at operations and bond, I'm bringing some things back to this group that the board said we will fund out of fund balance. Those are interactive panels, those are growth school buses, those are maintenance vehicles. We've done that for the last year or two, and we will do it through next spring because this bond won't happen until May. And so when you see your worksheet, I haven't broken it out for buses, but I will. But the vehicles, the technology is all broken out by year, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So that when you get to your consideration and you've got so much money, you might say, okay, 2030, we're gonna push off. So I've helped you out there. But tonight we're presenting everything because I want you to see the total package, because these needs don't just go away. They're going to have to be funded some way in the future. And so that brings your task. You're going to decide how much to recommend for the 25 bond. And then that's potentially going to drive the timing of future bonds. I've said this before to individuals. I don't know if I've said it to this whole group. I would love to put together one bond to knock out the next 5 years. I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. it costs money to go to bond, and guess where those dollars come from? Operations. So when we meet again in 2 weeks, we're going to look at all these numbers together. What is our bonding capacity? How many have heard the phrase, clear as kind? I really love that phrase, clear as kind. I want to be clear. You are going to see some large numbers. That's the nature of construction and maintenance these days. You're going to see a long list of projects. That's the nature of maintaining the square footage and the number of buildings that we have. And think about all the kids, all the students that are walking those and using those buildings every day. It's not like flushing your toilet at home 5 times. It's over and over and over again. So I really want to harp on the operations side. We are having a challenge there as a chapter, I was going to say chapter 41, not anymore. As a recapture district, it's always best to put things in a bond because you're not paying recapture on those INS tax collections. And so we've come full circle. We put it in bond, we took it out, and now we're looking at putting it back in bond. So keep that in mind. Why are we having these struggles on the operations side? If you'll go back to your notes from the September meeting, we did a very quick School Finance 101. We're operating on the same dollars as we were afforded in 2019. And we all know that we're not in 2019 costs. So, with that, we're going to get into all of the projects that we have identified and some costs. And James and I are going to tag team through this because he's my phone a friend person tonight. Okay, we're going to start with the new campuses because these have been studied, this has been recommended. We've looked at this timeline. So again, elementary 6 is opening next school year, August of 25. The Sycamore expansion, we did drive by that Saturday. You got to see a little glimpse of that. That is going to be complete this spring. Within the next big projects, we have high school 2 planned to open August of 28. Elementary 7 in that same school year. Middle school 3 projected to open in 29-30, and then elementary 8 in 2030. That seems like a long time away, right? But it's really not when you start working backwards for the construction schedules. So beyond what we already have on the ground working on, we have 4 campuses coming up by the year 2030. This is really difficult to see, but this is the timeline for high school 2. So we are currently in design. The board approved schematic design. Now we're in design development. But again, this project cannot happen without a bond in May of 25. So this is one reason we are here this evening. We do not have the funds to build high school 2. So to open it by August of 28, we need to go to bond by 2025. And so you can see this in your handouts. Construction would start October of 2025 or potentially sooner if we can speed up some of this design. And then I've just put in here, so it's hard for people to fathom if you're going to open a school 2 years or 3 years down the road, why are we talking about it now? It really takes 4 years to get any campus on the ground from the time you start talking about it, designing it, bidding it, constructing it, and moving in. So as an example, elementary 7, it is slated to open August of 28. We would need to go to bond for it no later than 2026 because you can see on this schedule, construction would begin March of 27. We would design it. We do have design money for this one, so we can start designing it without the bond. But you can't wait until 27 to do a bond because that would be in May. And we need to start construction in March. And then it would open in August of 28. Those 2 months in 28 towards the opening setup and move in, this is so critical. I have opened a school right in the hills of school starting. No one likes that. Teachers are trying to move in, we're trying to move in furniture, we're trying to unbox supplies. So if we could have 2 months to get in that building before school starts, that's a minimum. Same thing for middle school 3, you can see the same timeline here. Construction on it would start in May of 27, so it's got a longer construction. So you notice it's starting right after elementary 7 construction starts. For it to open by August of 29, we would need to go to bond by 2027. Anyone guess when we would need to go to bond for elementary 8? You see a pattern here? So if you look at these dates, 25, 26, 27, 28. Dr. Morris Kuntz, do you want to do a bond every year for the next 4 years? So that's why I say I would love to just do one bond and get at least these projects in there, but that's what we're going to have to come to a decision on. Okay, high school 2. We are in design for that. It is a comprehensive high school with 2,500 student capacity. This is the project cost, and we're going to dive into these costs a little bit more. It is planned again to open in August of 28. At that time, the projected 9-12 enrollment district-wide is 3,220. So our 2,500 student capacity at the high school, the Dripping Springs High School, we are 720 kids over capacity when this school opens. So if this school does not open in 28, we have 700 kids to find a place for. The site is at Darden Hill. We did do a drive-by of that Saturday. And we also have a new line item in here, wastewater. And James, you can jump in and correct me, but I think when we started this process, we thought we would be able to connect to Dripping Springs water or wastewater, and that is not looking promising, so take a look.
That's basically correct. We thought the city was going to have a plan to take it down Darden Hill, and that has since kind of fell through and never really materialized, so we need to take care of that ourselves. That's what this plan is.
Okay, here's the pricing for high school 2. So we're going to walk through this. In November of 22, we went to bond for a total of $275,350,000. The breakdown was, this was an estimated 460,000 square foot building. So we had construction cost of $232,500, soft cost, and $1 million contingency for the total of $275,000. That was November, and now we're looking at May of 25. So what is different? We did get design money in the 23 bond, so I'm going to take that off the $275,000. But then we have an escalation factor. So costs continue to rise in the construction world. So because we're a year and a half behind on that project, the expected 25 bond program budget would be 286, almost 287 million. So if we just factor in what changed from 22, this is where we would expect to be. Where are we today? So what is different today is we actually are in design and we have a contractor on board. So they are pricing as we are developing. And so right now, the square footage is about 483,000 and our construction costs are $255,000. We're still carrying soft costs of approximately 18%. We have increased the contingency just because of the size of this project. $1 million seems a little low. And so that would take us to 303. I need to take out the architect fees because that is in that 45 million above. And so right now, what you're gonna see on your sheet and in this presentation is we have a budget of just under 293 million. So the difference between that and the 286, we did increase the contingency. Our square footage is a little higher, but remember, we're still in design, so this is not a final design. So we're cutting anywhere that we can cut to make this more efficient. So right now, we're about 1.6% above what our expected budget would be for this campus. And I'm sure this will be one of the things you want to talk about in your table talks. So that's high school 2. Elementary school 7, same thing. Well, it's not this, I don't know what it's the same thing, so just the same slide. It's a pre-K through 5 campus, 850 student capacity. It will be, so elementary 6, we are designing as a prototype. So that means we know what the footprint of that school looks like, or the layout. But remember, we're in the hill country, so we can't build the exact same school on every site because topography is different. But we have designed it so that it can be adjusted to the site. And so we have a prototype now with elementary 6 that we will use for elementary 7. Again, we do have design money for elementary 7, but our projected cost on this is just over $74 million. Again, opening August of 28. Our total projected pre-K enrollment at that time is 5,653, and we are currently searching for land for this campus. So I do not know exactly where this campus will be today. For some references, James came from Leander, I worked in Leander for a point, Gina worked in Leander. They build a lot of schools almost every year. And so we have this pricing from them that is actual GMPs on their elementary school. And this is the same design school for that district. And so you can see if you go back to 2008, you could build an elementary campus for just under $20 million. Now remember, this is construction cost only. This does not include land or your soft costs, but this is what the contractor is saying you can build the school for. If you look at that same design going up to 2024, it's now $51 million, and you can see the annual increase there. So these are hard numbers. We have some projects here in our own district that we can look at. So in 2021, Walnut and Cypress were opened, almost the same square footage, just under 35 million and just under 37 million. Now an elementary school that we're building is almost 55 million. So just want to give you some reference. When I told you these numbers are big, when you see 74 million, that's because this is being constructed in the future, and we've seen what's happening with construction prices.
Land, sorry to interrupt, but does the 74 million include land?
No. Middle school 3, projected cost 146. Remember, this is going to be a larger campus. It will hold grades 6 through 8. We do have design costs in the current bond. It's planned opening August of 29. Our total middle school population at that point is projected to be just over 2,800. We do have space on the Headwater site, but that has not been decided. So I think we're looking at a total of 5 middle schools, and so we are looking for middle school land as well to make sure that Headwater is not the right site for our future population. And I don't have middle school numbers to show you for comparison. And then elementary 8, same as elementary 7 as far as capacity. Again, the prototype, you'll notice the cost then goes up because now we're starting construction in March of 29. And when this campus is projected to open, our total pre-K through 5 projected enrollment is right at 6,500. And again, we are searching for elementary school 8 land. All right, Lizzie, anything you want to?
Yeah, so I can tell you that in a district in North Texas, I can give you a middle school comparison. They built a middle school, just a normal middle school, not anything glamorous, for about $41 million in 2018 to 2019. That was the year of construction, after design and everything, right? They just had a bond in 23, the same prototype bid out at $96 million. So almost completely, more than double. So just keep that in mind. What Elaine showed you on the elementary is very similar to middle. The prices have only gone up. Okay, so let's take about 10 minutes to talk at our table and come up with our questions, and we'll be walking around if you need to grab us on the side.
All right, we had a lot of conversation with James Conkle, but we did have one remaining question. Just the ES6 timeline, can you walk us through that again? It just seems pretty quick. based on ES7, I apologize.
7, yes, 7.
So just to help you guys with how in the construction world, how we build a budget, we always go backwards. So demographic reports, we have, my bosses tell me we need to have a school open blank year, so we always go backwards on those. We know what a typical elementary takes, a typical middle school. There's plenty in Austin to kind of pick from. Was just my experience. We used to build, some markets so bad, we used to build an elementary in about 10 to 11 months, and now it's taking 14. And that's tracking with elementary 6 we're building now. So this time frame is accurate. We need 8 months to design. We start TCQ, site permits. We'll also start the building permit kind of right in there. We'll start construction, a 14-month build out. Setup is basically when we build all the furniture, FF80 in, we have to bring that furniture in, build it, and get it delivered, stock it. And then move in is obviously our teachers and our staff moving in, so that's an actual one. And it matches with 6 and 8.
So when would you need the land purchase to make that design
Soon.
Pretty quick. Pretty quick.
And that would be
And
said,
we are-
they're gonna ask about land over here.
That's my other job, land.
All right, Angela.
Lots of good conversation. One of the questions was, what about the land money from previous bonds?
Great question. So you're gonna see a line item later tonight for land. And what I've done is looked at all of the sites that we need to purchase for facilities over the next several years, and it adds up to about 301 acres, I believe. Our realtor says 100,000 an acre is a good estimate to use. And so I've taken that total cost. We have a little over 4 million in the 2018 bond for land, and we have, I believe, 15 million in the 23 bond. And so I've taken those two numbers off that total. And what you're gonna see tonight, I think, is 11.1 million for additional land for additional sites. So yes, and we will spend that money first in, first out. So I really need to spend that 2018 bond money first.
Okay, Maureen?
I don't think we have any questions. We had a really good conversation. We talked quite a bit about high school 1 and high school 2 and the equity between the two schools, and then how you phase in the filling of high school number 2 to make it, so that you are being judicious with the space, the money, the funding, the staffing, all of those things. And I think that was the bulk of our conversation.
Good talk. I like that. That's good.
Okay, we kind of were all over the place a little bit. Started, questions about how to impact community and put a positive attitude on all the needs that we have. And then one question was, what does it mean? What goes into the cost to go to bond? That was a big one. I think you kind of answered that question. But then the one that was kind of still out there was, what needs to transfer possibly from the M&O to a bond or vice versa? You kind of mentioned that earlier, but didn't go into detail.
Yeah, so transfer, so anything that can be capitalized or is bond eligible, I would like to push back into bond because that frees up my M&O dollars. If the HVAC at the high school goes down and cannot be repaired, that's gonna be a huge strain on the operations budget. And remember, the largest portion of expenditures in the operations budget is payroll, salaries. And so the less we have for salaries means the lower raise we can give. So this current school year, all district employees got a 1% raise. That was negligible. When you factor in health insurance premium increases, that takes away the raise. So in effect, our teachers didn't get a raise this year. So we're really working on how do we pay our staff and keep them here and maintain our facilities. So anything that is eligible for a bond, I'm trying to push back over there to relieve the M&O budget. As far as the election costs, we'll bring that to you next meeting so that you can understand what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's important. Okay, good.
Okay, so we had some really robust conversation over here as well. One of the questions was in regard to the construction costs for new campuses. Is the increase that's applied for future years? Is that a static percent or amount that's being added there?
Yes, it is. Right now, we're tracking about 5%, using that as an escalation factor
Per year.
per year, compounded, obviously.
All right, let's take it away and head on to our next icon.
Okay, our next section is facility improvements. So what you're going to see here are items to address current facilities and things that have been identified either through a replacement schedule, or they're currently failing, or they're going to reach end of life in the future. So I'm going to turn this over to James because I'm hogging the mic.
Hey, real quick.
Real quick, show of hands, who was on our tour on Saturday? Pretty much every table has somebody you guys can kind of pick from, so I think that was helpful to you guys. I hope it was. You guys get to see a lot of this stuff in person. So I'm going to walk you through these, through what we did on the tour, and you kind of see the numbers, just kind of see what we're talking about. The first project we're going to start talking about is Dripping Springs High School. This is about a 500,000 square foot building, 2,500 student capacity. It's been in use for 29 years. The current enrollment is 2,564. And what we're trying to do with this, with the redo of it and the upgrade of the finishes, is get parity with high school too. The projected cost for this is about $90 million. Obviously, this is a huge building, and this is a 4-year project in the summertime. So what this project would detail is HVAC replacement on the complete campus, except for the J Hall, because it's 3 years old. It would be massive plumbing repairs. Most of those are in the front. Those are the cast iron pipes that have been there for 30 years that are kind of collapsing on themselves. We need to do the same thing we did at Dripping Springs ES and actually cut the concrete, open that up, get the pipes out, replace those, and then go back in. It's pretty extensive. Electrical improvements, lighting, new paint, whiteboards, all the finishes that you guys see. Every table had somebody that run a tour. We kind of walked, and you guys got to see that in person, so please ask those people that went on that tour. They can kind of help fill in the blanks. It also include some improvements in the acoustics in the F and J Hall. We have a lot of sound issues there, so we're going to close out some Tecton panels and some flooring products. Band practice lot that would be lit, so we light that so they can actually practice. When we just have the time change, they're out there in the dark trying to practice, so we just get them some light. Lock-off capability in the gym area. So what this is about is when we have other schools come in for a competition, like for the basketball, volleyball, whatever, cheerleading, band. We want to be able to have those in that other school, in our school, but locking down, they can't get in with our student population for obvious reasons. The new design of high school 2 would have that capability. We're going to try to build that in where they can use our gyms, use our facilities, use our bathrooms, but not intermix with the rest of the school. So that's kind of what that is. I'm just going to explain that. Stage curtains have a fire rating. That fire rating is up on these. We need to replace those curtains just for fire code. So that'd be the stage curtains in the pack. Install vape detection. I didn't have this in high school, but this is obviously a problem now. So this is a vape detector in all the public bathrooms. It just notifies us if something's going on in those bathrooms. And this was that was asked for by the staff. New furniture and cafeteria tables will complete that project details. Next one we're going to go to is Brewster Springs. This is real similar to high school. We toured this one too. You guys got to see this. We walked through it. Again, real similar to high school. We don't have the plumbing problems here. That's really the big difference, but this is a 110,000 square foot building, 850 student capacity. It's been in use 18 years. That's critical when you think about 18 years of use on the HVAC equipment. Again, if you have a house, you know how long your HVAC equipment lasts. Most of the time, HVAC equipment lands a year and a half before the kids get there. Obviously, we have to buy that stuff 2 years in advance. We have to install it the year before. So these are all 20-year units on that. The current enrollment is 772. The projected cost for this would be $25,768,800. The project details, again, real similar to high school. This would be HVAC replacement. That is a geothermal. We only have to replace the mezzanine, the units, the pumps, and the actual units themselves. The geo well, we already paid for. Those stay in the ground, so we get the benefit for that. Paint wall tile, real similar. We have the interior halls. If you guys went on that tour, you got to see the difference between Dripping Springs Elementary and Rooster. It would look real similar with that tile on the wall. all new finishes on the inside. Ceiling and insulation, we have some insulation on that metal roof that we need to upgrade, just to, again, take better use of our HVAC equipment. We have some drainage issues in the front of the school. We have heavy rains, we're having a little bit of water kind of seep in the front. We need to excavate that with a contractor, so we can fix that. Parking and drives, we reseal and patch. That is an asphalt campus. It just takes maintenance. We need to reseal that, crack mitigation, seal it up, and restripe it. That also include new classroom furniture there. Next one is Dripping Springs Middle School. We are in the middle of an interior renovation with that school. Some of the things on this were from the exterior. This is all exterior stuff. And some of these came from the campus, but this is stuff that was not included in that interior remodel. So we have an exterior window problem over there. This creates two issues for us. The new TA codes, we have operable windows at school that we need to get rid of. So we want to get rid of those so they're not operable anymore. And we also have single pane windows that environmentally are just bad. Again, bad insulation, bad sound pollution. We want to clear that up. Paint the exterior. Again, the interior is going to be brand new. We want to freshen up the exterior. That school has got a lot of just soffit fascia, so that's pretty minimal. Replace the well house. We call it the well house, but behind the chiller plant, we have an old metal building that houses the boilers and the circulation pumps for the well system, for the cooling system. We need to replace that thing. It's just an old metal building. We need to put a new building in there to protect that equipment. Wish I had a picture of it. It's horrible. We could film a horror movie in there tomorrow. Exterior wayfinding, again, just to bring that up to our new standard, where if you pull on the campus, you know there's two campuses back there with Cypress, just get better wayfinding so people can get their way around. Again, these were not included in the scope of the 23 bond. All that was mainly interior. This is mostly exterior. So that project cost is $2,460,000. Sycamore Springs Middle School. This is HVAC improvements to the geo wells. I think it's common knowledge. You guys know we've had a couple water issues at that campus. One was when I first got here about 2 years ago. Luckily, that happened in the middle of the summertime, right at the beginning of summer, because it took me about 3 months to fix it. So we have a geo system there. We have the hard water in our area is eating a component in that pipe assembly. So going from the well pipe to the unit, we have a rubber hose that goes into a copper to a stainless steel to the geo pipe. That fitting is actually busting loose. We need to replace all of them. So it's part of our water eating that. It's some of the chemicals that we have to treat our water. It's just one of those weird kind of things we need to fix. That is causing those hoses to blow off. So again, you've heard our insurance has gone up. It's 2% of our building value now. So obviously we don't want to eat that again. We need to fix this problem so we don't flood the school out again. And this will fix that. There's about 144 days we have to fix on that campus. So we have to go through, from the bottom, we have to attack that. These well heads come through the building, they penetrate the roof, they go into the units, and that's where we gotta fix it. So we have to touch all 144 of those. Another thing that'll help us be a more efficient school, this is one of our most efficient schools, so make it a little bit more efficient, is to get our big box areas off those wells, which will again help protect those areas. But what we do with this is actually put a DX unit on those big areas like the library and the gyms. They used a lot after hours. Instead of firing up all those wells, we would just fire up one unit. Again, more efficient. That's a newer technology that we do on any of our schools, including High School 2 and Dripping Springs ES6. The big box areas will have DX, everything else will be geothermal. Also, there's some field storage and shed. They need some more for their field equipment, their track hurdles, their pads. They just need some more storage. There's some locker issues with some lockers that were just missized for some of the sporting events, so we're going to fix that in there. That projected cost is $4,144,000. The majority of that is this HVAC issue. Dripping Springs ES, waterproofing the exterior of the building. So we had 1.4 million to replace the windows. We knew about that one. We have it, we still have it, that money. That was in the 2023 bond. This year, we figured we were gonna have some kind of problem with those, so we actually had the contractor take a couple windows out so we could see what kind of issues we have, just with the rock getting it replaced and blah, blah, blah. We took that out. What we found out is apparently in the late 80s, early 90s, we had some water issues over there, And the school district attacked that from the inside of the building. So the way they did that is they took the sheetrock off. Again, I wasn't here, this is urban legends, but they took the sheetrock off, we took the insulation out, they took the sheathing and the waterproofing off, and then they spray foamed it, which was brand new technology back then, which is awesome, but that's not a structural element and it's not a vapor barrier. So we're out of code now. So now that we have this problem, we have to fix it. This sounds awful, it is awful. We have to take the brick and the stone off that building and replace those. There's no way to do it from the inside of the building. So to replace the windows, bring it back up to code, especially now that we know about it. There's also been some other things with this building with humidity issues that we've always been combating, and this is probably why it's happening. We don't have a vapor barrier on the building. So something we did a long time ago, we just need to fix it. Parking lot, another thing, that campus was just out of date with some of our current parking needs. Anybody that has a child that goes there knows that when you drop off that child, you're on 12 forever. It's dangerous, we need to get off. Any of our newer schools have parking, they have queuing to get off the major roads. We need to fix that. So basically what we do is remove that parking lot. It's got a lot of issues. It's an old asphalt. Improve that so we have queuing on site and get those cars off 12. So just a major improvement for that, for safety. And that's just that. There is an asphalt playground. We had two, in our last bond, we did have two play fields or two courts that we replaced. Those are right outside the two gyms. They have a third one that's in the back of their facility that has like the picture of the world on it. They want to replace that. So we didn't know about that. It has the planet thing on it. We thought they wanted to keep it, but they need to replace that. So again, our district standard, we're going to remove that asphalt. We have to seal, has cracks, asphalt moves a lot, and replace that with a concrete one. So we're done with it. Projected costs of all those projects are $10,373,500. Walnut Springs and Cypress Springs, small things here, but things we need to look at. We have drainage and erosion issues on both of those. I've been asked several times, is this a design issue? Is it this issue? This really comes down to we can't water. It was designed right. If we could water, we'd have grass out there. It's a gentle slope from the back of the building. They're both in the back. Since our water restrictions in the area have happened and we can't water, with all the kids playing on it, all that's just been eroded. So now it's just dirt, and obviously when it rains, it just washes out. We saw this on the tour, and again, we had our principal talk about that. All elementary campuses, going back to the water issue and the restrictions we have, we want to do a turf play field. So we are going to have this at 6 for a couple different reasons. One is the LUEs that we purchased to keep the water usage down. We have a lot of fields that take no water, and we want to give every single one of our campuses a play field that actually you can play on. So we would put a small turf play area at every single one of our campuses. That would match ES6. The projected cost for that is $1,264,100. These are two slides that you guys asked me for on the tours. One, I was talking about the ROI in flooring. So right now we have PCT. It's the stuff that when you went to high school or school, you probably saw it. You saw it at some of our campuses. It's a great product. It's just heavy on maintenance. It's a cheap product to put in. It lasts a long time, but the maintenance is what kills you. So what this chart shows, this is based off another Leander school we built, kind of use the same thing there. Year one for linoleum and VCT is what it costs to put 33,000 square feet in each one of those products down. So your VCT cost is $144,000, your linoleum cost is $216,000, and you can see that you're a negative $71,000. You spent more money than obviously the VCT. If you follow this chart down, the major difference is VCT costs about $1.39 per square foot to take care of. So you're stripping it, you're waxing it. If you have a principal at your table to explain when you have to close your campus down for a month to do this, just the chemicals in the air, it's labor intensive, and that goes up every year. Linoleum you clean with water. So there is a small fee in there to clean, but it's about 24 to 29 cents a square foot to clean it with just water. So if you look at this thing between year 3 and 4, you see that negative 640, and then you see it jump up to 74. At year 10, Linoleum saved the district just in labor and materials, wax and stripper, $287,000. So that's where that ROI comes back. That's about a 4 to 5 year ROI, putting that product down before we start saving money. The other one you guys asked me for, and I apologize, we actually toned this thing down. This is LED. We started building this when LEDs first came out. We had this chart built, and LED light fixtures were super expensive. So we all know, because we all have them in our house, LEDs are as cheap or cheaper now than LED bulbs. So the cost of the fixture is not really in here. This is just flat out going from LED to a T8, which is what we did. So in that first column, those are bulbs. We have ES, the middle school and high school. The first is the bulb number that you'd be using for a T8 or a LED. The number of tubes is how many tubes, that's how many individual light fixtures are in that school. So in elementary, we have 33,000. Going by how much you pay, blah, 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 all the way down to the end. If you look at this bottom graphic, you're basically saving $432,000 a year in 12 years at an elementary. At a middle school, it's $869,000, and a high school, it's $1.2 million. That includes energy, and also includes if you have T8s like at our high school now, we have to go replace those bulbs every 3 to 4 years. We have to place those ballasts. We have the factor here is 1.5 ballasts per light fixture. So in that 12 years, we have to pay a maintenance guy to go in there and change that ballast out 1.5 times. Basically, that's the average. So that's the two things you guys asked me for.
Thus far, we have 600.
So a lot of discussion centered around whether or not there's going to be a breakdown in some of the project details. Like there's a total here, but it doesn't, between HVAC versus flooring versus painting versus, that way, if you don't want to do all of it, what is the breakdown of the true high needs of the
Okay.
project?
We can do that for next time.
Will you put that on the post-it note so we don't forget? Okay. Where's Jalen?
We had almost the exact same question, and then just under the guise of, what is immediate, what's a need versus nice to have. And I think you can answer that better with the breakdown. So really ours was all about the breakdown as well.
Okay, you're gonna have a worksheet.
The worksheet you get tonight, will we have tonight item?
Some of it is line item, some of it's gonna take some work to line item out.
But, needs versus wants, urgency versus, prioritizing everything.
Okay. Like this is a 5-year
And kind of along those same lines, some of the smaller items maybe could be benefactors or donors, like the vape detectors.
Right, so we will talk about other financing potential options. Is this something PTA can do? Is this something the campus needs to fundraise for? Remember, I'm bringing you everything that's been identified. Cindy.
Okay, kind of a two-part question. First, do we feel like these are really the full scope of projects for the next 5 years? And then understanding that sometimes things happen, is it possible to put some kind of contingency in the bond for unforeseen projects?
I don't think legally we can put just a whatever happens line item. I don't think the voters would approve that. We have tried to foresee everything that we can, but again, with facilities, forecasting what's gonna break in 5 years is, I would love to say I have a crystal ball that does that, but this is everything that we, talking to campuses, talking to departments, talking to different groups, have identified and we put on the list.
Okay, all right, let's get to the next section.
Who's next?
I think it's athletics.
All right, this is you.
Athletics and technology.
Okay, I'm going to talk about athletics for a little bit. Our coaches, our athletic directors here, if you have any questions for him, we can also bring him in this conversation. Jumping to high school projects. The first one is Tiger Stadium Sound and Video. This is a new video board comparable to all the other high schools out there that have that on competition fields. So we turned this into a competition field for both of our high schools. It has rebranding, all new sound system, and a new video monitor on that, new scoreboard basically. We created the shared Tiger Stadium. I just kind of brushed up on that. Basically, we need to quick.
I want to clarify, the Tiger Stadium sound and video refresh is not, this is refreshing the current system, right, Cindy?
Okay. Create a shared stadium, just basically the branding of the stadium. So we take the logos out, make those universal for the LIC, just get rid of the the school. What? I'm sorry. Go back to Leander again, sorry, Dripping Springs. I'm gonna be in trouble with this Las Vegas later on. Adding locker rooms to it, so if we have 2 high schools there that are playing at this field, obviously we have locker rooms for halftime. When they get off the bus, they can get dressed over there, so bathrooms and lockers at that stadium make that a true competition field. Replacing the turf on the 2 fields at the competition field, this needs to happen in about 3 years, and the practice field with the track is, replace both those. This third one is a turf grass practice field, and this is in between those. So our new high school will have 2 practice fields and in a JV field. That would bring this up to that standard. So they have 2 practice fields, the one with the track, the one in between. It's a grass field right now, and then they have a competition stadium that they would use as their JV field. So that's the Dripping Springs High School projects. The Dripping Springs Middle School projects is a turf and track replacement. So that turf is up next year. We need to replace that, and the track needs to be upgraded too. So that has an asphalt base that's basically taking that top layer off. We can respray these. We respray them every 2 to 3 years. We put that kind of that red paint on there when we do the striping. The grip to it for the track athletes and the give if you fall kind of starts wearing out and they get hard. So we need to replace that. It's a little more labor intensive, obviously. So we replace that. This would also be a scoreboard for that football stadium. This is a junior scoreboard at JV. We will similar one that's at Sycamore. The Sycamore middle school projects will be the same kind of thing, except for the scoreboards. We've got the turf and track replacements on those. That isn't the older one. It's going to take a little bit more. There used to be a high school with a little bit bigger track. There's a little more to that, but the same principle. We just need to redo that track. And then once we do that, it's a 7 to 10 year kind of replacement for that safety factor. Other projects would be a golf facility to support old high schools. So we don't have a golf course out here. Most high schools have a golf course that's near them. I know we did in Leander, Lake Travis does. They're teamed up with a golf course, so they can go practice. We don't have that. We do have a really good golf program, but they have no place to practice. So besides the pitch and putt or whatever, this would be basically a indoor golf facility, classroom space with some bays that they can practice in the driving range, the simulation stuff. They can actually practice on their lawn drive, and then a pitch and putt outside that. And instead of building 2 of these, it would be way more efficient to build one in the middle. And then these 2 high schools, maybe the 3rd high school could use this facility and maybe even run out in the future. All those projects together is $42,358,800.
I just want to point out on this, the large cost on here is a natatorium. This would be a separate proposition. This is an identified need. We currently partner with the YMCA for our swim team. When we have 2 high schools and 2 teams, it's going to be tough. So this was an identified need. It's on here, but it's for your consideration. But that is why this number is so high. So that's, I think, a $25 million facility. So it's not $42 million worth of turf. All right, technology. Again, looking at a replacement plan out to the year 2030. So what we provided for you is our refresh standards. And I do have the technology expert in the room. So I'm going to try to cover this generally, but I will definitely phone a friend for questions here. So we have staff computers, we have devices for students. For staff, we try to refresh those every 5 years. I know I personally have been through like 3 computers and I've not been here 5 years. So some of us are really hard on our devices. Chromebooks, again, at least 5 years. These are up to auto update expiration dates. So we don't always know when end of life support is going to happen on those, but we typically keep those at least 5 years. We have iPads. Again, Apple doesn't provide end of service information well in advance, but typically about 5 years on an iPad, 5 years on servers, 5 to 6 on access points, and those are the wireless devices so that we have Wi-Fi in our campuses. Then you see switches, firewalls, projectors, flat panel displays. Those we purchased with a 7-year warranty. We haven't had any in the district for over 7 years yet, so we don't know exactly how long those will last beyond 7 years. And then intercom, replacement, and cabling. So think about technology. It's not just the device that you see. It's the servers, the cabling, all of the other things. And so this is the refresh standard that we use. When we use this, then this is what the costs look like. So I left 25 in here so that you could see the impact of what's going to the general fund. So in 25, so next spring, in order to do our refresh in the summer, I've got $834,000 worth of interactive panels to purchase, and 33,000 of devices, so Chromebooks, computers, etc. Those are coming out of the general fund this next year, but that's again a strain, so that's coming out of fund balance. After 25, we've put those back on here for consideration. And again, if it's not connected to the wall, technology is required to be on a separate proposition. So when you saw November, we had 3 propositions. And so one of the other reasons we took it out of bond is so that we didn't have that extra proposition. So if you do decide that you want to put some of this technology, some of that may have to be a separate proposition, and we'll talk about that more in the next meeting. Then you see a time clock refresh, servers, the intercom again. And so you see in the future we've got some really big numbers coming because we've got big systems that are going to be time to refresh. But again, building this out until the year 2030. And this will be broken out on your worksheet.
Okay, let's take some time to talk at our tables, and we'll do some Q&A about athletics and technology.
Table 5, what is your question?
Our question is, what's the impact of community usage of the turf fields, and do they contribute money to, does that money that's collected also help pay for upkeep?
So we do charge a facility use fee, and we have a special MOU with Dripping Springs Youth Sports Association, DSYSA. After our own student events and DSYSA events, there's not a lot of time for anyone else to use those. So yes, they are paying to use those fields. That money is not per se set aside for those maintenance. It's a revenue item for the district.
Great question. Dave?
No questions.
Also no question.
Okay. Lori?
Are we going to need to purchase the land for the golf and the natatorium, or do we already own the land for the golf and the natatorium?
We need to purchase both.
Okay, and finally?
Well, we had a request if they could have access to the slides because some of them aren't legible here, to be able to, some of the graphs or the stuff that James was speaking to. Okay.
Yeah, we post them on the website every day after, so I can send y'all the link if you need me to. Will you put that on Post-it notes so I remember?
I did.
Thank you. Okay, great. All right, moving on. Here's our final section.
Final, who has the clicker?
I think it's right there by the, yeah. We're moving on to transportation.
Okay. My transportation expert is not in the room tonight, but she will be here at our next meeting, so if you have questions I cannot answer, the expert will be here. But again, she has a refresh or a life cycle standard. So bus, the industry standard for a bus is 12 to 15 years. And so we have, as a district, adopted a 15-year replacement cycle. So that's what our bus replacement schedule is based upon. Our white fleet, so we have 2 kinds of white fleet, and what I'm saying white fleet is Suburbans when it comes to student use, and then service trucks that you might see around town for maintenance. So we do have Suburbans that students use. Our life cycle on that is 10 years, but some may require earlier replacement due to major repair needs, and some might go longer. So we really analyze what is happening with this vehicle before we replace it. They have a bus wash, and so what this is it's a high pressure spray, and right now our bus wash is damaging that reflective tape. So that requires our diesel mechanics to remove the tape by scraping it and replacing it on a regular basis, so it's not very effective. This one was installed in the fall of 2006, and the typical lifespan for a bus wash is 10 to 15 years. So that is a request here. Their shop, they have a shop, so we have mechanics that work on our buses, and do the repairs there, and we need to improve the exhaust system, removal system there. It did not get expanded when they added an additional bay with the renovations to that facility several years ago. And so there's not really a life cycle for that, but that's an identified need. Now, I've got this next one on the list. This is something that we've been talking about for years, but I don't have a price, and I don't think it would probably make it into the 25 bond. But in case any of you are on a future bond committee, I want you to know that this has been an identified need, and it's not going away. And what that is our current site, we have 64 marked spots to accommodate 85 buses and 7 vehicles. We have buses on order, and by 2030, we're going to need 23 additional buses, and we have no place to park them. So you might have noticed at the high school, there's some buses parked there. We're probably gonna be looking at bus parking here at this facility and other places across the district because we just don't have room. And we can't add to the current place because of impervious cover restrictions. So we've tossed around, do we need a larger facility central to the district? Do we need 2 sites for buses? Remember, with 2, the bus drivers come in, they use the restroom, they clock in, they clock out, so they can't just go pick up a bus. They need a small facility. We don't know what that best solution looks like, so I'm just letting you know this is an identified need, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know what the best solution is tonight, and so you don't see a cost for that. But know that this is here and still being worked on, and no, we would not have land. Ideally, we would need 30 acres for one big central site, and that is not in my land budget right now. They have the need for a service truck, and so what this is a truck that if a bus is disabled, they can get it back on the road, and if they, without the need to tow it. So, oh, yeah, that is tow. I thought I misspelled that road. That works. So they have a service truck that is needing to be replaced, and then tablet refresh. So they have tablets. We have, is it Smart Find? Is that the name of the program? So kids tag in and off of the bus so we know where children are at all times. The current tablets are no longer supported with updates. And so they work, but if we have a software update, they're not being updated. And so it's a very minimal cost, and normally I would put that in operations, but because of the state of the operations budget, it's listed here. So if we look at their costs, Jim's being quick for me. I've got this timelined out. Now, I did break it out on this, but on the worksheet you're going to get, for some reason, I didn't get it broken out. So I will get it broken out before the next meeting, but you can see the timeline for buses for replacement and growth. So one thing that happened with the 23 bond is we did put the replacement buses in the bond, but we did not put growth buses. And so the thought was, at the time that we did the 23 bond, we didn't have bus drivers, and so we thought, well, we don't need to buy more buses if we don't have drivers. Well, now we're fully staffed. And so we are getting the replacement buses. Those have been ordered through our needs for 25. It's taking over a year to get a bus. So we placed an order for buses last January. We still don't have those. And so we have to order those way in advance of actually receiving those. But we don't have money in the bond for growth buses. So the money slated, or the bus need for 2026, that $383,000, if that's not in a bond, that's gonna have to come over to operations. The white fleet, the growth Suburbans, you see that, and then replacement Suburbans. Again, those tablets, very small cost, but to help operations, it's over here. I've got $1 million here for retrofitting buses with seat belts. I don't know that this is going to be enough. We're trying to get a price for labor. So the price for the parts itself is $640,000, and we're trying to get a price for installing those seat belts. This isn't something we really want to do in-house because of liability issues. And it would take our mechanics forever to get this done. So this number might change. And I know you're probably going to ask me how many buses. It looks like we have 48 without seat belts. And so you can't retrofit anything earlier than 2011. And so 3 of those buses could not be retrofitted. Of course, anything new that we purchase does come with seat belts. The bus wash and the exhaust system, all of that, there's that number, and then the service truck number. So that is the replacement schedule through 2030 for transportation. When we move to other, this is stuff that just is across the district but doesn't really fit another category. So I have band instruments here. We have been purchasing replacement and growth band instruments out of operations, out of fund balance. Yes, we can continue doing that, but I have put it here as a need because we know we've got to replace band instruments. So the number you see up here is for high school and middle school. I believe for the next 5 years on your worksheet that is broken out. I've put money in here for furniture. I get requests from campuses all the time for additional furniture, and we just don't have a budget for furniture. So if we need to add a classroom, or these desks aren't working for pre-K or whatever it might be, we just don't have a budget for furniture in this district. Here is the land featured site. So I do have the golf facility. I may have answered that question incorrectly. It's just 1 acre, but then these are all of the other sites that we have that we're looking for land. Grounds equipment, a very nominal number here for some pieces of equipment for the grounds department. The maintenance vehicles, again, this was moved out of the 23 bond into operations, and this is to replace and add vehicles to our maintenance staff. There are a couple of issues with this building. So when we renovated this building to be an admin center, we did not change out the HVAC or anything else, and I believe it's the unit on this room right here that is failing, and then we have some water repairs between us and the maintenance facility. Kitchen equipment. So the 23 bond does have money in it to replace kitchen equipment. These are stoves, not stoves, ovens, freezers, coolers, etc. This number is for 27-28. So again, looking all the way to 2030, that's why this is on here, so you may want to punt that. And this is net of fund balance use. So when I say fund balance here, it's a little bit different. Child nutrition operates as its own fund, and it is operating at a profit, but they can only have so much money in fund balance by state, federal law. And so if we have extra fund balance, we have to spend it down. And so we have been spending that first before we touch the bond money so that we're in compliance with those regulations for child nutrition. So John submitted about $1.6 million worth of equipment, and I estimated $100,000 for 2 years of his money being used to bring this down to 1.4. So this would be net of us using child nutrition funds. And then portables, we know we always have portable needs. We do have money in the current bond for portables, but this would be beyond that timeline, so out in the future for additional portables. And then a warehouse / maintenance facility. So we do have a small warehouse right now, but it's not meeting all of our needs. And so this would be money to retrofit the gym behind this campus so that we could have an expanded warehouse space, and then maybe a little renovations to the maintenance area. So that takes us to the grand finale. So if I've done my math right, you can see the total for each one of these categories, and the new campuses alone is definitely the majority of the total projects. And so that is all the information we have for tonight. Lizzie, do we have another table talk?
Yes, so we're gonna do one more table talk on transportation and other. I'm gonna give you about 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll have our round of questions. So go ahead and get started.
The land off at 12, is that intended to keep or?
Gainer, that is a potential school site, yes.
How much acreage is over there?
It's 22, 25, something in that range.
Okay, perfect. Do you have one more question? Go ahead, ask it.
It's related to the pool. So the land in the land future school sites, it says golf facility, but not the pool. Is that?
It's just not in there.
Okay. And then is there a difference between an outdoor pool and an auditorium?
Yeah,
Yes.
auditorium's enclosed. Yep.
Big difference.
Pull take about an acre, so it's about an acre, some parking and small facilities. Pretty small, acre.
All right. Y'all, Elaine and James worked really hard on this presentation, so can we thank them? Oh, good job. Okay,
Just a very last minute question came through. The band refresh, does that include, was it growth?
For the current campuses, not for the new high school.
So that does not count for more kids.
Well, the high school band, the high school 2 FF&E budget would cover instruments for that campus. So this is our existing and what they project for growth for the existing campuses.
okay. So at this time, James and Elaine are going to be passing out your worksheets. I'm going to talk about that for a minute. So, oh, okay. Elaine, we have one more question.
In a bond, if you say you're gonna put in $5 million to replace the air conditioning at the high school, but then it doesn't need to be replaced, but you have some other need that comes up, can you do that?
I'm going to reserve that for bond counsel, so I don't want to answer that wrong.
Okay.
And the laws have changed between bond elections. So used to, the board could approve it for anything. It's a little bit tighter now, so I want to make sure you get the right answer.
Can y'all write that down, Caitlin, for us? Okay, perfect. All right, I'm gonna explain the worksheet.
Okay, let me have your attention. I know it's a lot, I know. Let's talk about this. So this worksheet, some of you asked for some of these things that are on there. No, the high school is not itemized, but we're gonna get that for y'all, okay? The current high school renovations. But you can see here, we have everything listed out. To the very far left of the project name is a number, 1, 2, or 3. What does a 1 mean? A 1 means we probably needed to do it yesterday, to be honest with you. That is a high priority, a high need. A 2, it can wait, but maybe not wait for another bond. And a 3 could probably be pushed to another bond. Does that mean you can only pick 1s? No. This is your menu, okay? So we just listed all of the needs we know of and prioritize them by 1, 2, and 3. This is very normal. This is how the process works. What you're gonna do for homework, yeah, you got some homework. You are gonna be committee member 1 on your page. And you're gonna take this worksheet home and you're gonna create a bond with a yes or a no for each project. And total it so you know what your final package looks like as a single person putting this together. When you come back to meeting 5, that's when we're going to have our presentation by the financial advisor, and you're gonna learn about your capacity, your budget, right? And when that budget is revealed, after that presentation, we'll have Q&A, you pull your worksheet out, and then you're gonna build a bond as a group. And your table facilitator is going to have a blank copy of this, and they are going to indicate what yes and no for each member. Do you have to leave your sheet that you worked on? No, nobody's gonna take it from you, it's your paper. Sometimes people get weird about this, y'all, so that's why I'm saying it, okay? Nobody's taking your paper, it's yours, you get to keep it from here to eternity, all right? But we are going to keep a record of what that table puts together that night. And then we will come back to meeting 6, and we will use an electronic voting system that your facilitator is getting trained on. It's not a vote by name, it's a vote by number. So if there's 7 of you at a table and 4 of you say yes, they will indicate 4 say yes and 3 said no, okay? So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But this worksheet is your homework for meeting 5. And yes, sir, yes, Karen.
We get this electronically?
Yes, I've already had planned on doing that. You're getting ahead of me. I like it though, okay? Yeah, I always send it out electronically, just so you have it. And it'll be PDF, so nothing can be changed, all right? Just because I don't want you accidentally changing something. Okay, so what did you like about the meeting tonight? Oh,
Okay, I want to clarify on, so when I did the slides, I was trying to keep the slides a little bit more high level. So don't think if you saw something on here, on the worksheet that wasn't in the slide, that I'm trying to hide something. I did not put on the slide up here for athletics, the big display board. That was my oversight. It is on here, so James tried to talk about it, but he was talking about it in regards to another line item on the slide. So this is the detailed list by campus. The slides were trying to be summarized. So I don't want you to think, oh, look, she snuck something in here, but she didn't put it on the slide. No, that was not an intention.
yeah, awesome. Okay. Okay, what did y'all like about tonight? What's something you liked about the meeting tonight? Yes, sir.
Before we get there,
Oh.
a question about the form. You
Yes.
said we should be committee number 1.
Yes, sir.
Are we gonna be utilizing, if we wanted to do more than one scenario?
Oh, sure, absolutely. You could come in with 2 or 3, 100%. I love that idea. Great. All right, I'll be there. Okay, what y'all like about the meeting tonight? Oh, nothing? Everything. Okay, I like that. That's good. It's organized and moving smoothly, yes. And a lot of time was put into this presentation. I'm sure you can see that because we wanted to make it where it was absorbable and you can understand it and it's not, too much at once. Anything else? Anything we need to do better for meeting 5? Good. Yeah, there's always a reason. We just have a process. That's right. That's right. And table facilitators, I know you have your Post-its, and I'm going to get those. And remember, we're going to hang out a little bit at the end so you could get those to me and we can do that. Okay, so next time we will be back here on November the 20th. Same time, same place. You've got to bring your homework, okay? Don't forget to bring your homework. And I will send that electronically as well with the Q&A too. Okay, thanks so much for being here tonight. We appreciate y'all so much. Have a great night.